Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. This week's Parsha is Vayetze, and we're picking back up with the story of Yaakov from last week's Parsha. So last week's Parsha, we had Yaakov and Esau, Jacob and Esau fighting, well, having conflict over who should get the blessing from their father Yitzchak. Rebecca, their mother, helps Yaakov, her favorite son, to take the blessing from Esau. She thinks she's doing the right thing because she thinks that it's not meant for Esau to be the leader of the Jewish people or to be the forefather of the Jewish people. And perhaps she's right. But either way, Yaakov takes the blessing and Esau is very angry. And so he flees, he leaves his home and he flees to Haran, where his relative Lavan lives. On the way to Haran, Jacob flees dramatically. On the way to Haran, Jacob spends the night, and he has the very famous Jacob's ladder dream. So Yaakov goes to sleep. He dreams of a ladder that reaches from earth to heaven, and with angels coming up and down it. And in the dream, God tells him the land which you sleep on is the land that your descendants will inhabit. Your descendants will be many. And there's all this beautiful commentary that how easy it was for Yaakov to inhabit the space that he was lying upon. That's how easy it will be for the Jewish people to be able to take to have their homeland. So it's a beautiful, beautiful message. And for forever, I wasn't really compelled by what's the ladder, what the angels are going up and down. I never really got an answer that was interesting to me. And I found one that I actually like, and it's from the Ibn Ezra, Avraham Ibn Ezra, a commentator who says that the ladder is a symbol that everything that happens on earth is communicated up to heaven. There's nothing that happens on earth that isn't by heaven's decree. That everything that happens up here, that happens down here, is by the decree of the above, and that the angels are moving back and forth, and that things are constantly being communicated, and there's constant communication, and that things are the way they're supposed to be. And I think that's sort of a continuation of the message we have from last week's parsha, where Rivka thinks that she has to make the bracha for Yaakov and not Esav, but the bracha that Yitzchak was giving Esav wasn't the bracha that he would have given Yaakov, and that Esav wouldn't have been given this leadership of being the father of the Jewish people. But what's meant for us is meant for us. Again, that's what we talked about last week. And I love this message that what happens above or what happens below, it's all communicated. No, nothing is hidden from God's sight. And this is relevant because Yaakov has just taken part in some deception, whether or not it was well intended, and he's about to be the victim of deception. When he goes to Haran, he falls in love with Rachel. Rachel is the younger of Lavan's daughters. Leah is the older daughter, and even though Yaakov falls in love with her, Lavan swaps the girls on their wedding night, and so Yaakov ends up marrying Leah instead of Rachel. And so we have this. Yaakov is the victim of deception again, of switching one for the other. Again, with twins, because we think that Leah and Rachel were probably twins the way that Yaakov and Esau were. And then later in Yaakov's life, which we're obviously going to get to in a few weeks, he's a victim of deception again. That when his sons, he has, his 12 sons, he has Yosef, who becomes his favorite. The brothers get jealous of Yosef and they sell him into slavery and instead tell Yaakov that he was eaten by a wild animal. Also, again, deception by siblings, jealousy, sibling rivalry. These themes are a constant in Yaakov's life. So while he was a person who did deception, he's deceived more often than he has been the one doing the deception. And I think it's sort of this subliminal message or this foreshadowing to Yaakov that what will happen is it will happen the way that it's supposed to happen. These things, whether they will be painful or not, are happening because they are decreed to do so. And I think it's really hard to accept that when really horrible things happen to us. But I think it's a powerful message and it's an important one. I feel like there's so much unfairness going on in the world right now. It's so unfair the way that Israel wages a war in the safest way possible and has a one-to-one civilian to combatant ratio, and everything about the war is just completely miscommunicated and misunderstood, and that social media has warped the war, that the news media has warped the war, and that Israel can do everything right and still be blamed. It's so painful. It makes me so angry. And I have to do some self-talk and remind myself that what will be will be, what is meant to be will be. Nothing that happens on earth is without the oversight of God. And please God, it will be things that we agree with and we have an easy time with. So those are the ideas for this week's Parsha. Shabbat Shalom, wishing you all a peaceful week, a peaceful weekend. I hope you have some interesting conversation about this topic. Hopefully you were listening. But Shabbat Shalom, God willing, I'll see you all next week, and Shabbat Shalom.